All right, the prospect of Israeli retaliation against Iran for its drone and missile attack during the weekend has West Asia on edge. Iran's political and military leaders have repeatedly warned that they will respond to any Israeli retaliation, potentially triggering more attacks. So as Tel Aviv weighs response, it is widely expected that Israel's next steps will have to be calibrated along two axes. First, that a country must take some sort of action to demonstrate to Iran that such an unprecedented show of force cannot pass without consequences. Second, taking into account Tehran's threat that it will strike again with greater force if Israel retaliates. And none of the options are without risk. While the destructiveness of the Iranian strikes could have been much worse, a major red line has still been crossed from an Israeli security and deterrence standpoint. The important questions on a response are how and when. While statements from Israel's war cabinet has implied that a direct Israeli response to Tehran is not imminent, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is yet to make a formal decision. The chief military spokesperson has made it clear that Israel is keeping its options open. Well, now let's take a look at Israel's potential strike options. Some hardline Israeli security establishment figures may view this weekend's escalations as a window of opportunity to go after Iran's nuclear facilities. The option is seen on the high end of the escalation spectrum. A direct attack on Iran's nuclear program would probably mean the end of the ad hoc coalition of Arab states that supported the Israeli defense effort this weekend. Next, Israel could target a high-value Iranian military leader. Israel could also go after military sites or weapons depots inside the country or even the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' headquarters. The killing of a high-value target might also allow Israel to bide its time, perhaps for weeks or months. Iran hopes to leverage its network to move equipment and personnel across West Asia to bolster the country's drive for regional hegemony and remove Western powers. Now, display of Israeli military might, in fact, in the region after barely any Iranian drones or missiles succeeded over the weekend could dent Tehran's international credibility. However, attacks on Hezbollah and other groups carries risks of its own for Israel, and its armed forces could end up suffering considerable losses. And last but not the least, Israel might settle for a low-end response. Tel Aviv may roll out a series of carefully disguised cyber attacks that devastate Iran's military-industrial complex. Well, to tell us more on this, we were earlier joined by Helid Barrel, who is a former director at Israel's National Security Council, and he joined us from Tel Aviv. Listen to this.
Well, what we are hearing is that all options for retaliation are currently being considered and are on the table. Needless to say, it would be a more complicated situation because of the message from the United States, but also because of the question of legitimacy and support from within, and particularly because the main goal for the continuation of hostilities and a war effort on the Israeli side are seen in the public, I think, would be the return of the hostages. And it's unclear how at this time such an action would promote that rather than divert resources. Having said that, is it also quite logical that the war cabinet is considering retaliation? Because as you all saw on April 14th in the early morning hours, Israel was comprehensively attacked in a way that no country has ever been attacked before. And there's a question here of sovereignty and of what deterrence and retaliation look like. So obviously a lot of issues to consider. Personally, I would stress that I think the war cabinet is quite aware of the fact that the Iranian attack had failed miserably, it's true, and that this form of effective defense that Israel and its supporters have put up effectively amounts to deterrence by denial. Iran was not able to achieve its goals, and I think all of its proxies and everybody who is watching understands that effective defense is deterrence as well. So we have an issue here where I think Israel should very, very carefully craft what its response should be considering its interests.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.